Hey everybody, welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. I'm your host, Tyler. Nice to hear you guys again. We are out here doing my second ever speed build. Big things are happening. We're working on the Salvador mission. So the Salvador mission is going to be a mission. It's a Spanish style mission, just like the ones the Spanish used to build in California. And I have built it specifically for 4 Sims. Now, these 4 Sims are the Salvador brothers. They're 4 monks who are all artists, sort of in their own right, and they also are all quadruplets. They happen to be quadruplets. So they're identical-looking Sims, but with slightly different body types and haircuts and like accessories, so you can tell them apart. But they'll have the exact same face. I just kind of copy and pasted them, which was a lot easier than like actually going through and making 4 Sims. So let me show you what the Salvador brothers look like. I'll show you right now. These are my Salvador brothers. There are 4 of them. The first is Joaquin. He's a chef. His art is cooking, and he's kind of like goofy, right? I imagined like just sort of like a fun, loving, kind of childish, goofy guy, right? He's making a lot of jokes. Yeah, he's just like super fun, easygoing, a little bit of a slob, but you know, whatever. The second brother is Francisco. His art is painting. So I imagine him as sort of being like the responsible one of the house. He's like neat, things like that. His room is gonna be like covered in art. He's definitely like a little bit more, you know, soft-spoken, a little more gentle, but certainly not shy. The third brother though, Ignacio, his art is gardening, and he is like the shy one. He's a loner. He's really quiet. He likes to be outdoors. He doesn't like to be bothered. Yeah, definitely a little bit more timid, a little bit more reserved. And then there's the last brother. His name is Raul, and Raul's art is music. He's a musician, and he is, I imagine him as being sort of like a playboy, right? He's like super self-assured, really confident, really flirty. He is a little vain. I put like a really big mirror in his room. Yeah, that's how kind of as how I imagine him. It's sort of like a, you know, kind of flirty playboy musician type, but he's a monk, so like whatever. And they all live together in this mission that I built for them. So I named after them, Salvador mission. The Salvador mission, I don't know what inspired me. For some reason I was like, I just want to make a mission style. I mean, there's so much mission style stuff in the game. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know why in the base game they decided that like mission style would be like the big style. I guess it's because Oasis Springs is like a sort of deserty world, so they'd build like a bunch of mission style houses. I don't know, but I found all this really sick stuff in the live edit objects, which you'll see I'll put all over the house. Some really good stuff for like decorating the roof line and stuff like that. So I thought building a mission house would be super easy because there was already so much stuff in the game. And I just kind of went online, did a little bit of research, saw the structure of a general mission. Now, of course, these things were like massive. They were really big. They were meant for the education. Well, okay, education is kind of like a a loaded word, but they were meant to convert the local indigenous population to Christianity. And so they were usually built near villages. They were built near rivers, and they had these massive areas for both farming and also for housing indigenous people that they would have come stay at the mission. So obviously a very loaded history. We're not doing that shit on in this video. What we're doing is we're just building a very small, very simple mission for 4 brothers who love to perform their own arts in their own way. No colonialism in this bad boy. So I went online to see sort of what they would look like. They generally have a pretty big chapel, which would form the centerpiece of the house. And so that's that sort of big stone structure you see on the right-hand side. That's the chapel. And then they usually have a courtyard, which is typically much bigger, but here it wasn't a very big lot, so it's kind of tiny, but it's very cute. When the light comes in, it's very beautiful. And I put this little garden on the side, which they also typically had if they were sort of growing their own food, but I also thought that maybe that'd be a great place for Ignacio, the gardener brother, to hang out and perform his art. So I also wanted this thing to be pretty simple. I imagined that these brothers don't have a lot of money. I sort of wanted them to live a pretty simple lifestyle. And so you'll see the walls, I'm putting all the wall texture on right now, are made of that sort of like washed out brick. You can see right now that I've got that sort of blue tile around the bottom. I wanted something slightly ornamental. You'll see me futzing around with it a little bit. But eventually I decided to nix that. As much as I really really liked it, I couldn't find something that would match with the normal sort of whitewashed bricks. And the reason I picked that brick design is because that's the one that I found. You see that sort of archway that goes on top of the door, the entryway to the house, that I found in the live edit objects. Love that thing. It's super super nice. It sort of really added like a lot of, I don't know, I feel like it added a lot of nice ornamentation to the house. But that was the style that thing was in, so I wanted to keep it kind of consistent. You see me here, I'm working on the courtyard. Courtyard was a really hard thing for me to do. In terms of like layout, I did a bunch of things with walls. I at first intended to put the walls right up against the stairs and then put the windows there, so it formed like a nice little veranda, but you can't put walls against stairs, so I had to nix that idea. You'll see what I do with it. There you go. I skipped ahead. I just put the windows around sort of the inner wall of the house, and then I enclose it again with another wall. So there is a way for them to sort of, it's not completely open air. That's not, I thought that wouldn't really make any sense because there were gonna be like bugs and stuff. So I do enclose sort of that veranda with a wall. And I think it forms a really, really nice courtyard. It's like a nice open air thing. I'll put a little fountain in there. It'll be lovely for them to sit out and read and stuff. You see me now, I'm putting all the windows on. Whereas my last build, I sort of went with like a maximalist approach. For this one, I wanted simplicity. So you see that a lot of the things I use are pretty like simple wood tones. I use this brick all over the place. There's like the stone. I use the sort of whitewash brick, and then I use those wood panelings for the sort of extensions on the house, which I imagined are the workshop and the sort of like brothers' quarters, respectively. So a lot of simple touches in this house. I didn't want it to be anything too fancy. I figured that they lived very simple lives. They didn't, have a ton of money. Probably they grow a lot of their own food. They're craftsmen, right? That's sort of like their thing. So yeah, their clothes are simple too. You'll have seen in the video, they all wear sort of like the same black habits. Those I found, that's just a dress that is like for female sims in Create a Sim, but you know how you can like get rid of the sort of the gender modification on the clothes. So I just chopped it off, gave them all like these lovely little black dresses, and they formed some really good like monk's habits. Now I'm working on the inside of the courtyard. You'll see how I ended up doing that. I put some archways so they get through, but then the rest are windows with those nice little banisters, and I think it just encloses the space really, really nicely. I'm putting out this little deck right here, which is going to form a little area for the garden. That's going to be where Ignacio keeps a lot of his gardening supplies, I guess, right? Little watering cans and stuff like that. And now I think I'm going to start working on, oh yeah, I put these little, what do you call those things? Those weird little wooden things on the outside. It looked like the Alamo to me, honestly, but I really liked them. I think they added like a nice little, I don't know, maybe not realism, but definitely a little bit more texture to the side of the house. So I thought that was pretty cool. I put up these little awnings too. I had to change the roof tile because all the tile on the awnings is like that sort of scalloped one instead of the slate looking one that I had earlier. And now I'm gonna get into some of the landscaping. So I wanted this lot to blend in pretty well with the rest of the world. Something that I hate about this world is that like a majority of the lots are grassy, which I think is so weird because this is like a desert world, and this is the only one that I could find that was big enough for this house and also wasn't like completely grass. It just seems so fake to me. It feels like sort of, you plant like this very fake lawn out in the middle of the desert. It didn't make any sense. And so I wanted like a lot of cacti, and I wanted like these big aloe plants and sort of agave plants and, things that I thought would be sort of like local to the area. And so I put that one, I love that big tree on the left that forms, it like frames the house really, really nicely. And now you see here, I'm building a little dirt path to the garden. So the front of the house though has this sort of like gravelly texture, which I liked a lot. I like to imagine that this house serves sort of from the outside as also like a gathering place for people in the community. That chapel I imagine would serve as like a church for people that live in the neighborhood. And so, not only is this a house, but it's also like a literal church. And so I wanted that sort of like that little area where people can congregate on the outside. I didn't want it to be like one pathway. I thought a nice big like gravelly space where people can kind of sit outside and chat after services would be really nice. Now you see me doing the rest of the terrain paint, popping in a couple more plants. A lot of the plants I use again for this build are from the live edit objects. I love those things. The live edit objects have like changed my building. They're awesome. They're so good. So I'm just popping in a lot of those things too. In the back of the house, I put this nice little area with this tree and a bunch of plants, and I'll put a picnic table out there too. I have those sort of like wooden things hanging out. I wanted, honestly, this house to feel, you know, less manicured, right? I don't want it to be like overgrown or anything like that. You know, not only because they're in like a desert environment, which, you know, there's not gonna be like vines growing up the walls, because that's not like really the kind of plant that's gonna exist in this neighborhood. But I did want it to look, you know, like there's like craftsmanship happening here. So I thought maybe those sort of wooden slats on the outside would be really nice. And just like those wheelbarrows and things like that all over the place, boxes and crates and things for storage and barrels and stuff like that. So I definitely wanted it to seem like this was the kind of place where people are doing a lot of work, because that's what these brothers are doing, right? They're kind of, you know, they're workers in their own right. Like they're performing their arts, you know, and their arts are all kind of like craftsy kind of things. You see now I'm putting on these like sort of dead grasses. I love these little dead grasses. And here are some of the like the cabbage things that I found in debug. I think those are super cool. Obviously, if you're playing this lot and you want that to be a fully functional garden, feel free to get rid of those like debug cabbages and put in actual plants. I didn't do that. I figured it would be really time consuming to go through and like actually plant all the plants and then wait for them to grow and then take pictures for the screenshots. Maybe there's a cheat to make your plants grow faster. Maybe there's like a testing cheat. I don't know. I actually didn't even look it up. So I could have made that process way easier for myself, but to make it even easier for myself, I just popped in these little like cabbage things. So now, oh yeah, I had to change out those flower beds because they clipped through the walls. Now you see me working on the floor plan. So the way I sort of intended for this house was that there isn't like one central hallway. A lot like my last build, there isn't one central hallway, but the sort of veranda that goes around the edge of the courtyard serves as the central hallway. So all these rooms are sort of connected, and then they have entrances and exits to the courtyard. You see me here doing this little door trick. I learned this from Freezer Bunny, whose videos I love. I love his building. He like is an inspiration, if you want to say so. I use the archways and the doors to make it sort of look like they have these big open doors, which were awesome. I liked the idea of them opening the doors up when it's really hot out and letting all the airflow come in through the courtyard, which would be cool because it's, you know, sort of in the middle of the house, doesn't get a lot of direct sunlight. So that room right there will be the living room, will be like sort of the central hangout area. Now this area that I'm working on right now, where I'm putting these steps in, that's gonna be the brothers' quarters. They each have their own room, 2 on the first floor, 2 on the second. You'll see me obviously go through and decorate all those rooms. Back here are the kitchen on the left and the dining room on the right. I'm gonna move the fireplace because I like the idea of the fireplace being in the kitchen. I don't know why. I thought it would be more like authentic to sort of like an old build, right? I don't know if people had fireplaces in their kitchens, if that was like a thing, but I figured like way back when, before there were like stoves or anything, they would have been cooking on open fires. So I thought a fireplace in the kitchen would make a lot more sense than like a sort of decorative fireplace in the dining room. Because I was thinking a lot about sort of practicality while I was building this thing. Because I didn't really want a lot of like ornamentality in this house, honestly. I wanted it to be really simple, to be surrounded by a lot of plants, but nothing too fancy, right? Nothing for decoration or anything too fancy like that. Now you see me popping on these floors in the entire house. Like I said, simplicity was like the name of the game in this build, so I use these really simple wooden floors. I really like these a lot. They look sort of like, I don't know, they look sort of like rough and what's warehousey, you know, which I thought was really awesome. I really liked that. There is a door between the chapel and the living room. My initial like conception for that front room was that it's going to be like sort of an entryway, not so much a living room. I actually intended for the living room to be in the back of the house when I was first thinking about how I wanted to do this build. But then it was just too big. Like, I made that living room way too big, and I sort of had to, because that was going to be the way that, you know, the rooms were going to be the way for me to organize the outside of the house to make sure that it stays like contained around a courtyard. And so I had to make this room too big. And so I decided that I would just make that a living room, that this sort of space on the right would be, you know, right in front of the entryway would be where people get in and out of the house. So you see me here now. I'm starting to furnish the house. Now, like I said, that living room it's way too big. Like, it was really, really big. Sort of a challenge to figure out how I wanted to organize that space. So I messed around a little bit with how I place all the furniture. I decided that sort of on the left-hand side from when you walk in, that'll be the living area. The space right ahead of you was going to be sort of like an entryway, and then on the right will be, I put a bunch of plants and a nice little painting, and that's going to be how you sort of sneak into the chapel. So that those doors right there you see, those are going to be your entryway to the chapel. Again, simplicity, name of the game. I went through and I was using a lot of the mission furniture because that was like my influence for this thing. I figured there was so much mission furniture, I might as well use it. I really love that little love seat, the one with the orange like throw pillows on it. I think I actually get rid of that big couch and I swap out that love seat and the matching chairs, because I think just like it's a great set. It's really pretty. It's sort of like islandy, honestly, but I do really like it. Now I'm putting in a lot of sort of dim lighting. Those candles in particular, those giant ones, I think I must have used them like 8 times in this house. I think in every single screenshot of the house, you're able to like find one of those candles, because I wanted this place to be, I want it to be really dimly lit, and I wanted it to have like a lot of nice sort of ambient lighting. I wanted most of the light to come in during the day from like natural light. So a lot of the lights that you see in this house are either going to be from those sort of like weird metal sconces or from those candles. I love those candles. They're all over the place. They're so good. You see in the corner, I'm building a little reading area. I'd like to imagine that because these 4 brothers are all monks, that they would be really big readers. You know, I figured that they would be like studying, I don't know, like scripture or just, I mean, anything, honestly. I figured they would just be very sort of studious, big readers. So you'll notice there's only one TV in the entire house. It's going to be a little one in Joaquin's bedroom, the chef brother. But this space really is going to be dedicated for reading and for hanging out. Yeah, just like talking. There's not a lot of electronics in this house, realistically. There's, I think, maybe like one of those little stereos. There's a TV. I think that's about it. Oh, there's like a fire alarm, obviously, because I don't want them to like set themselves on fire. But now you see I'm taking a bunch of stuff out of debug that I wanted to put in the kitchen. I found some really good stuff, some pots and pans, some bottles, some you'll notice that pan right there that you see sort of like under the light fixture, that I took out and I was gonna put it up on a shelf, but I didn't realize that a lot of the stuff that you take out of debug, especially the kitchen items, you can't pick back up again. Once you put them down, you have to take them out like with a sim. You know how you like clean up like bottles and plates and stuff, you could just drag them into the trash can into the sink? You have to do that. But that particular pan can't be moved by sim either. So once it's placed in the world, unless you undo, it's there for good. So you'll see when I'm working on the kitchen that pan is just like sitting in the middle of the floor. What I eventually do is that I have to build a room around it. I have to drag the room outside of the house and then delete the room, but the pan is still there. And so what I ended up doing is just burying the pan under a rock. So if you want to look around the house and you want to find that pan, it's under one of the rocks. It'll be like a fun little Easter egg for you guys. Yeah, so there is like just an empty pan sitting under a rock in the house, in the backyard. What I'm working on here is their workshop. So I intended this space to be sort of like a simultaneous workshop storage space. Because the brothers are so sort of craftsy, I thought it'd be really nice for them to have a dedicated space to be working all these things, and also to keep all of their materials, right? So you see there's sort of big bags of what I assume to be fertilizer for Ignacio the gardener. I put all of these like sort of paintings and canvases and sketches. I like to imagine that Francisco the painter is doing a lot of his painting there, although there's also an easel in his bedroom. I put those the crates with like the fruit spilling out of it. I'd like to imagine that this space serves sort of as like a storage space for the kitchen as well. And yeah, I put some more of those candles all over the place. Like I said, I wanted some really dim lighting in this house all over the place. And then I put that little woodworking table. I don't know which one of the brothers is going to be a woodworker. Kind of up to you. I thought it'd be nice if they like made little sculptures all day out of wood. I thought it'd be kind of cute. So now I'm going to jump into the kitchen. You see me just futzing around with these objects again, trying to move that one pan. It's not going to happen. So that pan's going to stay into the house until I eventually, cut ahead and I put it under the rock. I love this flooring. I actually really, really like this kitchen. I like what I did with it, to be so humble about it. I think that flooring is wonderful. I wanted blue accents to this house. I thought that they would sort of serve as a really nice, they would like juxtapose really well with sort of the orange landscape all around them and sort of the white washed walls of the house. I just thought like a really sort of like bright or deep blue would be really nice here. But I also, since I wanted this house to be pretty simple, I didn't want to put it all over the place. I sort of wanted it to be reserved for special occasions. So you see, I use this blue flooring out on the front of the house on the sort of like entryway foundations because, curb appeal. And then I put them here in the kitchen because I thought a nice kitchen would have some nice style. And I love this kitchen. I think it's really great. I'm putting all of those debug items up on the shelves, and then I put in this really big wooden table. I love this table. I think it serves like a really, really lovely centerpiece for the kitchen. I'm gonna put, you see me put those watermelon and the fruits there. I put a bunch of fruit out there. I put some, the bowl of fruit, and I put that little bread thing. What do you call that? A cutting board. Duh. I put the cutting board with the bread there, and I'd like to imagine that as like a little, I don't know, breakfast table or a place that they use to prepare food. I do put some chairs there, but I also do the thing that Freezer Bunny does, where he sizes down the chairs and then puts the other chairs on top of them so that they don't clip to, you see me doing that right now, so they don't clip to the table, so that they look sort of like askew. That means that the Sims can't sit there. If you want them to sit there, you could totally just move those chairs back into place. Totally cool with me. I think it makes a lovely little, like, breakfast table. Yeah, I think it's great. Now you see me just sort of moving around the objects all over the house, or I'm sorry, the kitchen. I haven't yet put a refrigerator. You'll see that I put the refrigerator on this sort of side of the room over there where that end table is now. I like the refrigerator there. And the reason I liked it there is because I'd like to imagine it sort of like a larder, like more like a larder than a refrigerator. So I thought it would be cool if it was sort of separated from the rest of the kitchen area, like the cooking spaces and the stove and stuff like that. For not so much like cold food, but for like dry goods, right? There it is. I don't know if they have refrigeration. I mean, like obviously they do because it's 2020 and the Sims have refrigeration, but I thought this is such an old house that, maybe they don't have refrigeration. So maybe they just have a nice little larder. So yeah, I think that's going to be about it for the kitchen. Oh, of course, duh. I got to put my knife set up there. Love the knife set. The pans are going up there too. Love that thing. I also put in the corner of the kitchen, that little cask for like beer. For some reason, I don't know if you've seen those paintings of the monks that are like drinking beer and wine, and they're all like looking sort of cheeky, and the glasses they're holding are super teeny tiny. I don't know who these paintings are by. They're old paintings. I think they're like Dutch, and they crack me up. And every time I think of monks, I think of them like sipping little glasses of beer or wine. And so I thought maybe like one of the brothers makes their own beer. I think that could be a cool monk activity. So I did stick that little like ale casket in the corner. Now you see I'm working on the dining room. Dining room is super, super simple. Like I said, I didn't want there to be much like ceremony, much fanfare around anything that the Sims do in this house. So I thought like even dining, I wouldn't put like a grand dining room or a big dining table. I just thought that nice round table would be great. I put 5 chairs there. I don't know, maybe they'll have like some friends come over. You could stick an extra chair in there, but for some reason I didn't. And then just like that little hutch and the little table on the side, some plants. This room is really super, super simple. But that's kind of the way I wanted it to be. I wanted this house to be a pretty simple affair. I don't think there's even a rug in the dining room, but that's cool. It looks, I really, really like the way it looks. That one room on the left-hand side, I didn't know what to do with it. Eventually, I'd just literally get rid of it and turn it into a balcony. I think you'll see me do that in the future when I cut. Here I'm working. I'm putting that little thing there as an altar. Here I'm working as at one of the bedrooms. This is gonna be. Well, this originally was going to be Ignacio's bedroom. He's the gardener. He's also sort of a loner, so I gave him a single bed. I decided to make this room really sparse. Most of the rooms are pretty sparse. Like I said, I wanted them to live sort of, not aesthetic lifestyles, but definitely not, like, material. They're much more spiritual people than that. They don't care about, like, a lot of material objects. So I decided to make all of their bedrooms pretty sparse. This one was going to be Ignacio's bedroom. I filled it with sort of like green furniture, a lot of plants, paintings of plants because he's the gardener. I thought that would be a nice way for me to decorate his space. I gave him also this little bookshelf because he is a bit of a loner. I imagine that he would like to spend a lot of his time reading, just hanging out in his room, surrounded by his plants and his books. Now you see him jumping up to the second floor. For some reason, I skipped the other bedroom. I think I just didn't know what I wanted to do with it yet. This bedroom I'm working on here is Raul's bedroom. Now, Raul is the musician, and he's the one who's sort of like self-assured and confident and flirty and definitely like a little self-absorbed. So I gave him a little section for him to like get ready in. I dedicated like half of his room to this little area where there's like a big, full body mirror and that little partition and a nice big dresser. I figured he'd be spending a lot of his time like hanging out there, admiring himself. Like I gave him a million like shower products. I gave him like all of the different like body care products because I figured he'd be the kind of person who just like, I don't know, cares a lot about body care products. And I gave him a little cologne that I put on his end table. I kind of thought he'd be like a little like flirty and he'd be like wearing cologne and like looking good all the time and like checking himself out. You see that I moved Ignacio's room to the other side of the sort of hallway. The reason I did that is because this room was going to be Joaquin's room, and Joaquin is the chef, and I wanted him to be in closest proximity to the kitchen. I thought that would make the most sense. His room has a door to the dining room, so I figured if he ever wanted to like roll up to the kitchen and make himself a midnight snack, he's the one who would do it. So I put his room closest to the kitchen. His room is pretty simple. I put that little like crate for the apples as an end table. I figured like he's always using so much food, storage stuff, that he just like had an extra box and he used it as an end table in his room. But that room is going to be really simple. I couldn't really think of what else I thought he needed to have. I couldn't think of a lot of like food related things to put in his bedroom, but because he's sort of like playful and goofy and cheerful, I did put that TV. I imagine that he likes to like stay up late and watch movies or like watch TV shows and comedies and stuff like that. He's definitely going to be like a little bit more chilled out, a little bit more relaxed than the rest of the brothers. Now I'm going to move it back upstairs and finish the rest of the living area. This is the last room. This is Francisco's. Francisco is a painter, so I decided to give him that bed that had the sunflowers on it because it looked like a Van Gogh painting. And you'll see that I sort of cover his room in paintings. I also intended to give every one of them like a different color scheme for their bedroom. So you see that Ignacio's room is basically all green, Raul's is like a light blue, Joaquin's has like a lot of dark wood, and then his room, Francisco the artist, has a lot of sort of like lighter greens and white furniture, and I wanted his room to look really sort of like airy and bright. I figured he would be the kind of person who would want a lot of natural light because he would be painting, so I didn't want his room to look quite so dark. So I gave a lot of lights and a lot of little books and a lot of paintings all over the walls and on the floors, like those are his own paintings that he just sort of leaned up against the walls because he had nowhere else to put them. So his room definitely has the most like paintings per capita of every room because every other room is pretty simple. You see that these two bedrooms have a nice little like Jack and Jill bathroom. I think it's adorable. I really love this little space. They have doors that both lead to each. It's a pretty simple bathroom. There's nothing special in there. It is only a half bath. There's no bathtub or a shower or anything like that, which I thought was fine because downstairs they're going to have a much larger sort of like shared bathroom space, which we'll get to. It's one of my favorite spaces in the house. I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, so just up here, a little half bath, something really simple, something really nice. Bunch of plants, you know, like I said, I want a lot of plants all over this house. And yeah, little candles and body care stuff. Now you see I'm working again. Like I said earlier, I'm getting rid of that one room because I really had no use for it. I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. So I thought a little balcony would be really nice. There's like a little, I don't know what that thing even is. They have, I guess in the game, there are like little places where you can go and search for frogs. And there's one like right outside of the lot, right over there by the balcony. I thought it'd be super, super cute if they like sat out there and then like one of them went down and like looked for frogs. So this is their sort of shared bathroom space. I like the idea of all the brothers sharing like a big bathroom, like a collective one for all of them. I split it up into 3 different rooms. The first is like the sink area and the one with like all the storage stuff. So I put like a sink and this little, whatever you call that thing, the storage thing, a little table where I put some of their laundry, the medicine cabinets, their little bathrobes, things like that. And sort of like the staging area for the bathroom and, you know, the place where they got the bathtub and all that kind of stuff. I don't think there's a shower on this lot. I think it's just the one bathtub, which is definitely cool. Like I like the idea of them like only taking baths. I don't know why I assume that's a thing monks would do, but they just take baths. They don't take showers, which honestly is great. There's the bathtub. It is wood, which I thought was really cool. I like the idea of this wooden bathtub. And I have this little stool that I put some plants on. I, of course, put candles all over the place. I thought this would be a really nice place for them to relax. And then they have this one room that just has the toilet. I sort of thought a lot about, like, the way that bathrooms in European houses are sort of organized, right? They have the one room with the bathtub and the sink and the shelves and all that. And then they have, like, the tiny room right off of it, separated, that has the toilet. So that's what I thought I would do. And here is the chapel. So I made that little cross right there using one of the wood columns and this cool wooden piece that I found in debug. Obviously this chapel could be for any religion. Like the Sims don't have a religion. I mean, you know, maybe they do, but I don't know what it is. But I thought that the cross would be like a pretty, you know, emblematic of like a Spanish mission style, of like a real old Spanish mission. Yeah, so I put it up there. I used one of those wardrobes as an altar. I just flipped it backwards so you can't see the drawers. I really liked that little like runner that it had on top. I thought that would be perfect for an altar. And then the rest of the space is really, really simple. I put that little bird feeder fountain thing. I imagine that as being like the place where you go and you dip your finger in the holy water at the beginning of services. I have this little thing right here where I put like, I guess like relics, right? Like sort of special, you know, religious items. I have this little, you know, I don't know what that little golden thing is. I put one of those like fun sugar skulls, which isn't necessarily a relic, but I thought it would fit really nicely with sort of like the southwestern vibe of this whole world. And I put a little gravestone up there, which, I mean, I don't know why I put a gravestone there, but I thought it was cool. Now you see that I'm working on the courtyard. The courtyard is definitely one of my favorite spaces in this lot. I just put a nice little fountain in the middle and then some little paths leading to it and some grass. You know, it definitely is like a little oasis in this area, like surrounded by desert. So I just wanted like a lot of grass and yeah, stuff like that. I'm putting out all of these little planter boxes, planter pot things. I figured that the brothers would be planting a lot of flowers or herbs all over the house, and the courtyard would be a really, really nice place for that, especially Ignacio, who's the gardener of the house. And yeah, I basically just put in a couple of plants from debug, make it look kind of lush, make it look like a nice garden in the middle of the desert. It is pretty simple, but I really think it's really, really pretty. And yeah, I put a little bottle out there. I like to imagine that they sit and like drink, you know, wine or whatever monks drank. Are monks allowed to drink wine? I mean, yeah, I guess so. My monks drink wine. And then I put some little plants up on these little, I intended those little sort of corner things as planter boxes. So I put some little plants up there, and yeah, that's the courtyard. I just thought it turned out a really, really nice, like lovely little space. I dot it with flowers and all those cute little bushes, and that's about it. And now moving over to the garden. Garden is super simple. I've just put some more planters out there, and I keep those little cabbage things. Like I said, you can get rid of them, whatever, don't mind me. Just doing some terrain paint right now, and yeah, that's gonna be about it for this build. Thank you so much for watching again. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Shout out to you know, all my friends, my dearest subscribers, my boyfriend. Hi, Danny. Love you. And catch you guys on the flip.